story begins with a group of explorer team members who are in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean. On that ship, there was a weather officer named David, whose job was to tell about the weather conditions. They were going toward an island that was located right in the middle of the ocean. The government had sent David there so that he could observe the changing weather of that island. David had to stay there for almost 1 year. He had to collect weather data for the entire year and then return back after completing the work. David was given food for the whole year and all necessary supplies. After many days of travel, they finally reached the island. With the help of a boat, they got down on the island. This island was completely deserted. Not even a single bird could be seen there. On that island, there was a lighthouse and a small house where David was supposed to live, because before this, a weather officer named Robert used to live there. But now, his duty time was over. He had stayed alone on that island for 1 year and collected weather data. Now, in his place, David would stay here for a full year to collect weather data, and the old officer Robert would go back with the ship. But when the whole team visited the house, they were shocked because there was no sign of any human being there. Inside the room, all the belongings of the old officer were scattered here and there. After seeing this, the captain and David thought that maybe someone was in the lighthouse. Without wasting time, the captain and David moved toward the lighthouse, and there they saw a very strange scene. They saw that the entire lighthouse was surrounded by sharp and pointed wooden logs, as if someone had deliberately blocked it so that no one could enter. After that, the captain and David knocked on the lighthouse gate many times, but there was no response from inside. Finally, they pushed the gate hard and entered inside. Inside the lighthouse, they found a man whose name was Gruner. When they asked Gruner about the old weather officer Robert, he replied that he was dead. He had gone toward the ocean but never returned back. After hearing this, both David and the captain were shocked. After hearing everything, the captain said to David that, if you still want, you can return back with us. But David refused to go back. David thought that if he could give an accurate weather report of this island to the government, then he could earn a very large amount of money. After that, the captain gave him a gun for self-protection and told David that this place does not look safe to him and that he should take care of himself. After this, they all left him there and went back, and now they would return again after 1 year. After the captain left, David settled the house a little and made it livable. When night came, he found a diary inside a drawer that belonged to the old weather officer Robert. In that diary, many things about the island were written. There were some things written about a mysterious creature, but everything was not clear. Some things were incomplete. David carefully read every line. In the diary, there were also sketches of some strange animals. David could not understand why he had made such pictures. Maybe he was alone and did this to pass time. On one page of the diary, there was also a photo of the old officer's wife attached. While reading the diary, David got tired and slowly fell asleep. The next morning, David started collecting weather data, but as soon as he reached near the ocean, his steps stopped. He saw that between the rocks, some stones were arranged in a strange way, and shells were placed between them in a weird pattern. David thought that maybe Gruner had done all this. Thinking this, he again got busy with his work. During work, when he looked toward the lighthouse with binoculars, he saw another person standing with Gruner, but in the blink of an eye, that person disappeared. David tried to see again, but then he felt that it was just his imagination. At night, David was busy with his work when there was a knock on the door. He thought that maybe it was Gruner. David called out his name, but there was no response. As David moved toward the door with a lamp in his hand, strange sounds started echoing in his ears that were not human at all. Then he saw that, from under the gate, the hand of a strange creature was trying to come inside. That hand was not human at all. Seeing this, David felt the ground slipping from under his feet. He immediately ran toward the basement and hid there. Within moments, the mysterious creature entered the house. It was secretly searching for David, and David started watching it through a small crack in the basement. Because of David's movement, the creature noticed him. After that, the creature ran toward David to kill him and tried to grab him through the crack. To save himself, David immediately picked up a knife and stabbed it into the creature's eye. The creature screamed and ran away, but it could come back at any time, and David's mind was now confirmed that whatever was written about the creature in the diary was true. Because of fear, he could not sleep the whole night. The next morning, when David went outside the house, he saw some footprints on the sand that were not human at all. Those footprints went straight toward the ocean and ended there. Now David understood why Gruner had placed sharp wooden logs around the lighthouse. Now David realized that if he stayed in this house, those creatures could kill him at any time. Out of fear, David ran toward the lighthouse and shouted at Gruner to open the gate because he wanted to come inside. But Gruner did not let him in and said that he should have returned with the ship. David returned disappointed because Gruner did not even want him near the lighthouse. He threw water on him and told him to go away. Now David had to do something on his own. He blocked blocked every window of the house with wood. He made a boundary of sharp wooden logs all around and placed old papers and books outside the gate. Then he poured oil on them so that if the creature returned, it could be scared away with fire. But there was one thing that David did not know yet, and he was going to find out that night. Luckily, he found an old box inside the house. Inside that box, there was a gun and many bullets. Seeing this, he got a little hope of staying alive. As the sun started setting, fear started increasing in David's heart. After some time, darkness spread everywhere. David was sitting quietly in one corner of the house with the gun in his hand. His heartbeat was very fast. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound, and when David secretly looked toward the ocean through the window, he felt the ground slipping from under his feet. He saw that not just one, but many of those strange creatures were coming toward him from the water. Within moments, they all gathered and started trying to break the door of the room. David immediately started firing bullets, and some of the creatures fell and died. David thought that after hearing the sound of gunshots, they would get scared and run away. But after seeing their companions dying, they became even more angry. Then, David followed his plan and set fire to the papers and old books placed outside the gate. After seeing the fire, the creatures got scared and returned to the ocean. But now, the same fire reached David's house. The door of the house caught fire and slowly started spreading because the entire house was made of wood. David immediately wrapped himself in a blanket to save his life and went outside and hid behind a big rock near the lighthouse. While shooting the creatures, David's hand also got a deep injury. Suddenly, heavy rain started. The fire slowly started getting extinguished, but even after the rain lasted all night, by morning David could not save his house. The entire house was almost burned to ashes. Now, if David wanted to stay alive, he had to take shelter in the lighthouse. He picked up his rifle and hid between the rocks near the lighthouse and started waiting for the moment when Gruner would come out to fetch water. When Gruner came out of the lighthouse to get water, David started following him quietly. But suddenly, a strange creature that was already near Gruner attacked David. Somehow, David managed to control it. That creature was Gruner's guard. When David was about to shoot it, Gruner immediately stopped him and said, "Stop, this is my pet." David did not fire and took advantage of the situation. He placed a condition in front of Gruner. If he wanted to keep this creature alive, then he would have to let David stay in the lighthouse. Otherwise, David would kill it. Gruner agreed because David had a lot of food and gunpowder. Before evening, both of them returned to the lighthouse with the remaining food, and they slept peacefully. The next morning, that creature was quietly licking David's hand. When David woke up, he saw that because of the creature licking his hand, his injury was completely healed. Seeing this, David was shocked. Now David wanted to know more about this creature from Gruner and wanted to bring all this in front of the world because it was nothing less than magic. David thought that if they revealed the secret of this creature to the world, then both David and Gruner would earn a lot of money and fame. But Gruner did not want all this. He did not want to leave the island. Gruner had no one left in this world. For him, this island was perfect, where he considered himself a king and the owner of his own will. That is why he had written in many places on the island that Gruner is the king of this place. But David could not understand how this strange creature became Gruner's slave. So Gruner told him that once he had saved the creature's life, it had accidentally gotten trapped in his fishing net. At that time, the creature was small, and from that day onward, it stayed with Gruner and started obeying everything he said. But Gruner was a cruel man. He treated this creature very badly. Gruner had physical relations with this creature every day. Gruner said that once this creature had attacked him, and in return, he gave it such a punishment that after that, the creature started considering itself Gruner's slave. Now, everyone could understand why those creatures came out of the ocean every night. They all came to take their companion back from Gruner, but Gruner did not let that happen. Those creatures could not attack during daylight because sunlight burned their skin. David now did not want to stay there anymore. He wanted to somehow save his life and escape from the island. Evening started approaching, and Gruner told him to get ready with the gun because the creatures could attack at any time. They got ready to turn on the lighthouse light, and within moments, a large number of creatures came out of the ocean. They started moving toward the lighthouse. Gruner kept firing at them continuously, but David was completely scared. He started moving inside the lighthouse. Even after Gruner told him again and again, he just sat quietly in one corner. And after some time, David fainted. Gruner fought alone with the creatures the entire night. The next morning, Gruner angrily threw water on David's face and woke him up and said, "If you want to stay alive, then you will have to kill them. Otherwise, you will be thrown out of the lighthouse, and you will have to obey everything I say. You will have to bring water every day, do all small and big work of the lighthouse, and also do guard duty with me at night." David had no other option left. Because of this, doing all this became his compulsion. David started obeying everything Gruner said, but there was one thing he did not like at all, and that was the way Gruner physically tortured the female creature every day. Night comes. Both of them again get ready for guard duty, and once again, the creatures come out of the ocean. But today, David was not scared. He started firing at the creatures. But today, Gruner did nothing. He left David outside and closed the lighthouse gate, and quietly sat inside so that David could learn on his own how to fight these creatures. In this way, the night passed while David kept fighting, and morning arrived. In the morning, Gruner saw that David was sitting outside the lighthouse gate, covered in blood. Now he had learned how to fight these creatures. In this way, time passed. Fighting the creatures at night and handling lighthouse work during the day, this island now became like a prison for David. He kept thinking all the time about when he would leave this place and breathe freely. With time, David developed a strange friendship with the female creature. He started feeling bad for her. Now he understood how difficult it is to live alone after being separated from one's people. Maybe that creature felt the same way. David even gave that creature a name, Anarias. Days passed like this, and then one day, they saw that the attacks of the creatures were slowly decreasing. David thought that maybe they go somewhere else in winter, or maybe they understood that fighting these two would not give them anything. But Gruner told him that this was not true. They would attack again. Now, they were increasing their numbers. A few more days passed like this. One night after dinner, Gruner and David started playing chess to pass time. But here, Gruner made a big mistake. They got so involved in the game that they forgot to turn on the lighthouse lights. Taking advantage of the darkness, the creatures attacked them. David saw that the number of creatures was so large that even two people together could not fight for long. This time, they also had no planning. The gun bullets were almost finished. Somehow, while saving themselves, they reached the top of the lighthouse. But in the meantime, Gruner got a deep injury on his leg. That day, the creatures overpowered them. Both of them felt that their death was certain, but luckily, morning arrived. As soon as the sun slowly rose, the creatures left the lighthouse and returned to the ocean. After the strong sunlight came out, Anarias tried to heal Gruner's wounds, but by now, David had understood that they could not win this fight against the creatures. The bullets were almost finished, and they did not have enough food to survive for long. Luckily, the next day, when David was roaming outside the lighthouse, he saw a ship in the ocean. He quickly brought a flare gun from inside and went to signal the ship, but Gruner stopped him because he did not want David to leave. At that moment, Anarias attacked Gruner. She wanted to save David from him. Gruner did not want to let anyone leave the island. This island was his own world where he lived like a king. He did not want David to go either. After staying alone for so long, now he had someone to talk to, and if David went back on that ship, he would tell everyone about Anarias and them. That is why David could not leave now. Slowly, that ship disappeared into the ocean in front of David's eyes. Now, there was nothing left for him to do. A few more days passed like this. Gruner was still treating both David and Anarias badly, but he especially tortured Anarias, which David did not like at all. One day, David gifted Anarias a small toy boat that he made from a fishbone. But when Anarias saw the boat, she took David to a corner of the island where there was actually a real boat kept there. When David asked Gruner about this boat, he said yes, he already knew that on the island, in this part, there was a boat. Gruner said that some people had come to this island by boat to save their lives, but before morning came, not even one of them stayed alive. All of them were killed by these creatures. They were carrying ammunition on their ship, but because of a storm in the ocean, their ship sank near this island. As soon as David heard all this, an idea came into his mind. They had something like a diving suit. David said that if one of them wore that suit and went into the part of the ocean where the ship had sunk, then maybe they could find some bullets or dynamite, which would make it easier to fight these creatures. But Gruner refused to agree to this idea. Still, David was ready to risk his life and do this work. A few more days passed like this. A deep connection was formed between David and Anarias. David had started liking her. Gruner secretly saw both of them being romantic. Gruner felt that Anarias would take David away from him, so David would have to be removed from the way. The next day, Gruner himself agreed to David's plan. He said to David, "Fine, you will wear the suit and go underwater and collect a lot of RDX from there. Then I will pull you up with the boat." But Gruner's real intention was something else. He wanted David to bring the boxes of dynamite kept under the sea up to the surface with his help, and then leave him alone in the ocean so that the creatures would kill him. In this way, the dynamite would also stay with him, and Anarias would again become his slave. Both of them sat in the boat and reached the place where the ship had sunk into the water. David wore the diving suit and went down into the ocean. After going down, David saw that the ship was completely destroyed, but his luck was good because he found some boxes of dynamite. But suddenly, some creatures appeared in front of him. As soon as he saw the creatures, David got scared and fell down. The diving suit was so heavy that he could not even move, and David was also not able to send any signal to Gruner above. Gruner thought that maybe the creatures had killed David, but in reality, they were only two small children. Somehow, David left his diving suit there and reached the surface on his own. There, they found some old boxes that contained dynamite. After this, both of them got to work. They placed dynamite in 2 layers around the lighthouse so that when the next attack happened, they could finish the monsters in one go. A few months passed, and the season of snowfall arrived. But once again, the creatures disappeared. Suddenly, the attacks stopped. It felt as if the creatures had come to know that a trap had been set for them. That is why they were not attacking now. Gruner thought that maybe Anarius had warned the creatures. Because of this, he started torturing Anarius, but David stopped him. In the end, both of them made a new plan. They decided to keep the main gate of the lighthouse open so that as soon as the creatures came close, they could blow all of them up with dynamite. David cleverly asked Anarius to scream from the top of the lighthouse. As soon as the creatures heard Anarius's voice, they became furious. When the creatures saw that the main gate of the lighthouse was open, they thought that this was a good chance to free Anarius. But in reality, this was a trap for them. Within moments, the creatures started coming out of the ocean. They moved straight toward the main gate, and as soon as they entered, they attacked David. David also showed courage and managed to save his life from the creature. When all the creatures reached near the lighthouse, Gruner pressed the dynamite lever, but there was no blast. In reality, David had disconnected the connection, and Gruner forgot to connect it again. David immediately ran upstairs and started connecting the dynamite wires. By that time, the creatures were trying to climb the lighthouse, and only Gruner was stopping them alone. As soon as the connection was completed, David blasted the first layer. Many creatures were destroyed in the blast, but still, many monsters were ready to attack the lighthouse. Because of this, Gruner blasted the second layer as well. Both of them fainted because of the powerful explosion. The next morning, when both of them regained consciousness, they saw that Anarius was not there. Dead creatures were lying all around because of the blast. Gruner was killing those who were still alive in injured condition. At that moment, David's eyes fell on a necklace hanging around the neck of one of the creatures. Seeing that creature suffering, David felt pity for it and realized his mistake. The creatures that he had always thought were bloodthirsty were also like humans. They just could not speak. But for Gruner, all this was useless talk. After that day, the creatures never attacked again. But every day, crying sounds came from the seashore. David still did not know how big a loss they had caused. How many families were broken. How many children lost their people. All because of one misunderstanding. The next day, David saw some small children of those creatures in the ocean. All of them had lost their families. David made a round circle of stones and placed the small toy boat in the center so that Anarius might see it and return. David waited for many hours, but Anarius never came back. After waking up in the morning, David saw that Gruner was sleeping. Near Gruner, some old things were kept. Among them was an old photograph, and as soon as David saw that photograph, he was shocked. The girl whose photo he had seen on the first day in the diary of the old officer, Robert, was none other than Gruner's wife, and in the photo, Gruner was standing with her. In reality, the weather officer Robert, who had come 1 year ago, had not died. He had changed his identity. That means Gruner himself was the weather officer Robert. He had only changed his name because now he never wanted to leave this island. After seeing all this, David also gave up the hope that he would ever be able to leave this island. The next evening, when David went to the seashore, he saw that the small boat kept inside the circle was no longer there. But at the same place, he saw a small creature child holding that boat in its hands. David threw the burning piece of wood he was holding into the center of the circle to show that his intention was not to fight and that no one should feel threatened by him. He wanted to be friends with them. After some time, Anarius came out of the ocean waves, and behind her, the entire group of creatures also came out of the ocean. But this time, none of them attacked David because they also wanted peace now. Their only intention was to find a safe place for their children. But then Gruner arrived there with a gun in his hand. Gruner felt that if there was peace, then how would he feel superior to everyone? David tried to explain to him that these creatures did not want to fight. They wanted peace. But Gruner did not listen to anyone. He shouted at Anarius and told her to go inside. But this was the first time that Anarius did not obey him, because now she was not his servant anymore. Seeing this, Gruner felt that his rule over the island was over. Gruner started feeling weak from inside. because now no one was following his orders. In anger, he started moving toward the lighthouse. David thought that maybe now Gruner had understood that every living being wants freedom. No one wants to live as a slave to someone else. But the madness of being a king was not going to leave Gruner's head. As soon as he reached the lighthouse, he fired a flare from the signal gun, which went straight and hit a creature's child. That child died instantly. All the creatures ran away in fear, and Anarias also lost all her trust in David. Enraged, David immediately ran toward the lighthouse to teach Gruner a lesson. David started fighting with him. Why did you do all this? They only wanted peace. But Gruner had become so violent that he decided to kill David. As he was about to strike David with an iron rod, David called him by his real name and said, "Stop, Robert, you are not a killer." Hearing this, Gruner froze completely. In reality, Robert was never such a person. After coming to this island and living alone, his mental health had deteriorated. Loneliness, the death of his wife, and deep depression had turned him into this person. He was not actually a killer. He was a good man. Gruner realized that these creatures never wanted to fight. They only wanted peace. Gruner had killed them only to show himself as powerful, and now he had realized his mistake. That is why he surrendered himself in front of the creature. David locked himself inside the lighthouse. Time passed like this, and after 1 year, a government officer came to the island. Along with him, there was a new weather officer. Now the new government officer had to do weather monitoring duty on this island. When the captain asked David about the previous officer, David said the same thing, that he had gone toward the water, but never came back. The new weather officer also thought that David was Gruner. David did not correct their misunderstanding. He quietly went and stood on the balcony without saying anything, because now he also did not want to leave this island, just like Gruner. During this time, Anarias was happy with her family. Now, they were not afraid of a man like Gruner. Now, they could live freely on the island and in the ocean. With this, the story ends.